Welcome to the Economic Development Council's Vision of Progress. I'm your host, Nathan Sparks, and today we have the pleasure of talking with Dennis Sherwood. Dennis is the new Dean of Career and Technical Education for Northwest Florida State College. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And for that matter, welcome to Okaloosa County. You and I are on a similar track. I believe you started in September, I started in June. And it looks like you've clearly hit the ground running. How are things going so far?
Well, things are going very well. When I got here, I got marching orders from Dr. Handy about what direction we wanted to move the college, so we've been going full speed ahead at this point.
Wonderful. So you're happy with the decision?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, as everyone would expect, you bring considerable credentials to your new role. As I understand it, you have a BS in flight technology. You have a master's in education. So you clearly have the experience, and you also are a certified flight instructor.
Yes, I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I was pleased to see that, and I understand that you were in your last role for 25 years with Gateway Technical College in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So was it tough after 25 years to make a decision to uproot and move down to the sunny shores of Florida?
Yeah. Well, the sunny shores part wasn't so tough. But obviously when you're with an employer for 25 years, that is a hard decision to make. It was a great place to work. But some opportunities came along. This opportunity came along. I have family here. I actually lived in Florida for 8 years back in the 80s.
I noticed that.
So I had an opportunity to come down. My mother lives here, so it worked out very well for me professionally and for personal reasons.
So with that said, what was it about Okaloosa County and Northwest Florida State College in particular, other than maybe milder weather, although that's up for debate today, but other than the weather, what was it about this area that really spurred your interest in us?
Well, I really think it's the opportunities that are here. We're looking at an area that's really starting to blossom as we start to look at what's available for the area. We have a large growth rate going on. And as you look at the college, there's lots of opportunities there at the college too as far as growing the programs that are there. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. You know, when your credentials were first shared with the community, I was delighted to see your aviation background that we've touched on. You know, that's something that we believe at the EDC has tremendous potential for our area. Obviously,
Sure.
our region is already heavily entrenched in the aviation aerospace sectors. We believe that holds a lot of promise for us. And based on your experience, do you agree with that assessment?
I do. You know, aviation has had a rocky road over the last 3 decades. You know,
Right.
It goes up and down, up and down. And what that really has led to is a lot of the people that were in aviation in the past left it because they were experiencing layoffs and those kinds of things. So now we're really looking at an aging workforce in aviation.
Right.
So we're looking at some large turnovers during the next few years as they move along. So there's going to be lots and lots of opportunities just to replace the existing people plus the expansion that we're starting to see in the area.
Absolutely. So if you could for me, compare our area to what you had in Kenosha in terms of the aerospace sector. You obviously had aerospace businesses up there. I know you were involved in some of the educational efforts that were generated to really respond to the needs of those businesses. But what were the main drivers in Kenosha?
Well, it was really the Milwaukee area. It wasn't Kenosha specifically.
Okay.
Although they were looking at bringing in a small aircraft manufacturer once upon a time back in the 90s. And that didn't work out, but it was really the Milwaukee area, and there was, of course, a regional airline operating out of there, along with their small commuter airline that was associated with that. So we were feeding primarily that airline with mechanics, pilots, and able to meet their needs. Of course, aviation being what it is, they got absorbed into other corporations, and that headquarters in Milwaukee sort of disappeared.
I understand. Okay. So the group that you were involved with that I took note of, this Wisconsin Aerospace Education Alliance or Coalition, you served as chair of that group, as I recall.
I did.
Okay. So what was their scope, Dennis?
Well, that was actually a joint committee between the Department of Transportation and the Department of Education. And it was looking at the state as a whole as far as developing aviation-related programs, starting in the high school level and as far down even as the elementary school, and working their way up through the secondary education system and post-secondary education system so that we could be a feeder into the industry.
Okay. And was it successful?
It was. It was successful. Of course, as time went along, as personnel started to turn over and budgets got tighter and tighter, those things became more and more difficult because typical school system kinds of issues that you have as times go along. So we had ebbs and tides with that particular program, and it actually ceased to exist about 5-6 years ago. The program ended. But it was a long-standing program that was in place 20-plus years.
I see.
And it was actually very unfortunate that it did end.
And I assume it was more than one educational institution involved in that coalition.
Oh, absolutely. It was in Wisconsin, you have a technical college system. There's 16 colleges in that system.
Right.
And then you have the UW system. So everybody played a part in that, along with the high school systems throughout the state.
I see. Yeah, that's very similar. I was in Georgia previously, and we had a technical college system there, so I'm familiar with that model.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I also saw where you were involved in Gateway's airway science program and getting that program up and running and getting it certified by the FAA. Talk to me a little bit about that program, if you would, Dennis, and particularly the process of getting it certified by the FAA. I'm sure that was a bit of a daunting task, but I'd be interested in hearing about that.
Well, it's one of those things where, the government's here, we're here to help you sort of story.
Sure, yeah.
The FAA, people have their opinions about the FAA, whether they're good or they're bad, but in this case, they really were spot on when they started the airway science program. And it started back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
And they started to prepare institutions that were doing aviation training for the future. They were trying to direct that kind of training as far as what they were seeing is going to happen. Down to the point to where they were labeling, they weren't going to have pilots anymore, we were going to have systems engineers. Well, guess what we have today, basically? We still call them pilots, but when you get on an airliner today, the captain actually handles the control yoke very little. He takes off, he lands, and only because that's what you have to legally do in this country. In Europe, you don't have to. But literally, they're operating systems at this point. You're doing very little flying at this point. You're really managing the aircraft.
It's a flying computer.
It's a flying computer. So the FAA was really trying to direct aviation training programs at that point to go in that direction and really start to look at their curriculum in order to meet those needs, because that's a different set of skills than what's needed to actually fly an airplane. You still need to know how to fly an airplane.
Right.
Because obviously the systems can fail.
Sure.
So you had to do that in addition. So it wasn't that we were replacing a pilot, we were adding skills to the pilot is what we were looking at.
I see. Yeah. Well, now, and back to your point about the aging workforce in aviation, I'm sure you dealt with a lot of professionals, career professionals who were coming back to get refreshers, to learn new skills within the industry that maybe weren't there at the time that they became pilots.
Exactly, because it's just like any other industry. Folks that have been in it for a long time, as you start to computerize a lot of stuff, that's intimidating sometimes.
Right.
If you have a brand new student coming up and they started with that technology, it's old hack. It's like your kid working their telephone today.
Right.
So the same thing when you're teaching a skill. If they learned it from the very beginning, it was very easy. But if you didn't have it at the beginning, and now you have to bring it into the middle of your career someplace, it's a little challenging sometimes.
Absolutely.
So it was those kinds of skills that we had to bring up.
Absolutely. So how many students did you have in the program back there in Wisconsin?
Well, once again, it would go up and down with the economy.
Sure.
As far as goes. We would have about 70 students was the high point.
Right.
And then those numbers would go up and down from that point.
I
So
see.
70 flight students.
Okay. And would they be all across the spectrum in terms of ages, or?
Primarily they'd be younger.
Okay.
You didn't have a lot of, you have a mandatory retirement age for pilots.
Right.
So you don't get a lot of 40s, 50s folks going into flight if they want to work for the airlines, because you have that mandatory retirement age. So that kind of discourages that, and also the hiring, of course, of those folks, because the airlines put a lot of money into training also once they're hiring them. So they want a payback on that. So if you're 55 and you want to become an airline pilot, it doesn't look good at that point.
Only
just
so many
because
years of payback.
There's only so many years of payback for the industry.
Right.
So you would primarily have younger age students. Average age of a typical student at that institution and here at Northwest Florida is 29.
Absolutely.
And that's perfect.
One thing that we've found as we've been looking at the Airbus opportunity, obviously you're familiar with the fact that Airbus is building a new manufacturing facility 100 miles to our west in Mobile, and that has really served as a catalyst, as you know, certainly from your involvement, for us to think about how we can position Okaloosa County to accommodate the needs of suppliers to Airbus and other aerospace OEMs. And one thing that we've done, of course, is make a trip over to Germany to meet with some key individuals who were involved in really crafting the aviation sector strategy there in Hamburg, Germany. And we were all really amazed to hear that they introduce very young students to aviation careers. They have a flight club, as they referred to it, to basically just introduce young elementary age children to careers in aviation and to basic aviation physics. And that's something that I think holds, tremendous opportunity. The sooner we introduce young people to these careers, obviously, the more likely they are to consider those careers. I'm curious to know, in Wisconsin, did you all have good connectivity to the school systems and to those who had the opportunity to really steer students toward aviation?
We did. And unfortunately, it kind of focused at the high school level. As you said, it's really valuable if you can start getting down to the middle school and the elementary school level. Kids are still excited about aviation.
Right.
It's easy to get them excited about aviation because airplanes are still, kind of mystics for them.
Sure.
So it's very easy to get down there. So the deeper you can get into that school system, the better off you are, because if you can start to generate that interest, and it's not just to generate the interest in aviation, it's to get that interest in that whole realm of possibilities that they have. It's not that we want to make everybody a pilot or everybody an A&P mechanic, but if you get them thinking about those types of careers, that it's something that we can really get to blossom, especially for females. I mean, females typically, because of stereotypical kinds of issues, don't think of themselves in those roles. So if you can start to break down those barriers, and quite frankly, they perform really well when they do choose those types of areas, they'll really prosper.
Absolutely, and to your point, it was shared with us that a major initiative in Germany was to introduce more females to the engineering profession.
Yeah.
Right now, not just in Germany, but in the U.S. as well, there's really a shortage of female engineers.
Yes,
and that's something that we all need to change.
Yes, absolutely. And that's an opportunity that's just waiting for them out
No
there.
doubt about it, no doubt about it. Well, Dennis, we're going to take a short break, and we'll come back. We've been talking with Dennis Sherwood. We've gotten a good sense of Dennis's background and some of the things he's done in Wisconsin in the aviation sector. When we come back from our break, we're going to talk more about the specific programs at Northwest Florida State College that he's responsible for and his vision for those programs. We'll be right back.
Michael Adams?
Here.
Michael Adams?
Here.
Michael Adams.
Michael Adams.
Students who miss 18 days of school in any grade risk falling behind and not graduating. Absences add up. Keep track at boostattendance.org today.
The Hoover Dam can hold over 9 trillion gallons of water. How? Its arch construction diverts pressure into its neighboring canyon walls. The same principle applies in business. You must find support from the right partners who can help make you stronger. Choose a partner who is able to support you in every way. Cox Business.
Minutes a week, you can make a big impact on a child in Okaloosa County. The Okaloosa School District is recruiting mentors at all academic levels throughout the county. Studies show that students who are mentored develop self-confidence, make better grades, and improve their relationships with adults and peers. To learn more about the mentoring program or to sign up, visit okaloosaschools.com and click on the Become a Mentor link. You can make an immediate impact on a child and the community by becoming a mentor today.
Welcome back to the Economic Development Council's Vision of Progress. I'm your host, Nathan Sparks, and today we've been chatting with Dennis Sherwood, Dean of Technical and Career Programs at Northwest Florida State College. Dennis, welcome back.
Thank you.
In our first segment, we talked about your background. We talked about the aviation background in particular and some of your involvement in that sector. What I'd like to get into now is the specifics about Northwest Florida State College and your responsibilities there.
Sure.
Obviously, Northwest Florida State College is a tremendous partner in our economic development efforts, and we greatly appreciate that, let me first say. Your programs continue to grow, which is exciting for all of us. Can you update our audience on the number of programs you have at present? And also, I think we'd be interested to hear which of those programs are the most popular at this point.
Sure. We offer a wide range of programs at the college. We have 32 total programs in the career and technical education area. Everything from health career fields, obviously, business programs, computer engineering programs, and we're starting to work into the manufacturing programs. Health career is always popular.
Sure.
So the health career programs are booming. They always will, and for the short term here, they'll continue to be because there's a big, huge need for the health career areas. We have public service programs, fire, EMS, police training programs also, Those are very popular and will continue to be popular, I would anticipate, all the way through. And of course, the business programs are always a steadfast program out there that students are always interested in enrolling in because of the skills that they develop.
Absolutely. So your total enrollment for the college is approximately?
Right around the 6,000 student mark semester, approximately.
Okay. And how does the breakdown work in terms of how many are on a career and technical track versus how many are on an associate's and ultimately a baccalaureate track?
Well, you know, it's hard to say, it's hard to pinpoint those numbers. I mean, you have the numbers, the way the students are enrolled, and you can look at those.
Sure.
But reality versus what the numbers are really two different things with today's students. Most students are part-time students today.
Right.
Everybody's working, they have families, they have outside obligations. So very few students are actually full-time students anymore. So as a result, you'll have students that will wander a little bit in their training because they'll be at the college for 4, 5, 6 years sometimes before they achieve their goals. You have some of the outside influences like financial aid that sometimes will help them dictate their direction because of those kind of requirements, so they'll wander a little bit there. But really, we have a lot of people that are coming in are looking for short-term opportunities, something that they need to develop their personal skills for the specific task that they have at their current job or something that they want to move to. So they'll say they're a degree-seeking student, but in reality, they're just trying to find that next step for themselves.
Right.
But for financial aid reasons, we kind of force them into a pigeonhole. It's because of those rules that are out there.
I see.
But realistically, today's students are very, very diverse.
Right.
And there isn't what you would call your stereotypical full-time student anymore for the most part, especially at institutions such as ours. It's really a community-based requirement for the school.
Sure. You know, I would suspect that students that are interested in enhancing their marketability to their either their current employer or for future employment prospects, you know, your certificate programs obviously should hold a lot of appeal.
They do, and that's the very attractive part of the certificate programs. You know, that gives them a certificate that's very portable. As you said, they can move around the country if they had to.
Right.
We have Microsoft certificates, we have Cisco certificates. Those are the kinds of things that are industry standards that when you walk into an employer with that, they recognize that you have some kind of minimum skill that's outlined by that. Not saying that any institution is good or bad, but if you say I have a degree from XYZ college, an employer in California isn't going to recognize Northwest Florida State College and what the quality of that education is. And we have a high quality education program, but they're going to look at it and go, okay, that's nice.
Right.
But if you walk in and say, well, I have a degree from Northwest Florida State College and I have Cisco certification in these areas, that's something that the employer can look at and go, okay, I can grasp that and I have a keen understanding. So it's really two-pronged as far as those certifications. It's good for the student because they're able to make those moves and it identifies their knowledge base.
Right.
And it's good for the employer because they can hire an employee without having to worry too much about what their skill level is.
Absolutely. And you know, you mentioned Cisco and Microsoft, obviously household names in the technology arena. I'll admit I was surprised to hear that we have those certifications and that both Cisco and Microsoft are prominent partners at Northwest Florida State College. Talk to me, Dennis, about how important that is and why those designations and those partnerships matter.
Well, the partnerships are really what makes education go these days.
Right.
If we were sitting here having this discussion 15 years ago,
right.
I would not be talking positively about partnerships because industry partnerships were very weak at the time. We had a hard time getting industry interested in doing those. But now, the times have changed, the workforce has changed, the requirements of the workforce have changed drastically. So now we're getting a lot of cooperation between educational institutions and certain industries that are out there as far as developing those kinds of partnerships, and it's really, really developing into something that's very positive for the student in the long run. The overall goal, obviously, is to prepare them for a good quality job, and by setting up those partnerships and establishing what the industry standards are, through those partnerships, then it's able to translate down to the student. Another aspect of those partnerships, though, is also getting down into the high school level.
Absolutely.
So it's partnerships between industry and the college system, but it's also the industry to the college system down into the secondary system, because that's critical too. The students down there can accelerate their education by taking advantage of a lot of the opportunities that are out there for them.
Absolutely.
So it's something that's very valuable, so that you have somebody able to market themselves into the job market a lot quicker if they take advantage of those opportunities in the high school system.
No doubt, and you touched on the importance of partnerships, and certainly that's something that I found resonates throughout the educational world at this point, and it's good to see. I know that you all have been in conversation with our industrial community, our manufacturing community throughout the county and beyond, and you've responded as a result of those conversations. Specifically, my understanding is that you've kicked off a new welding program. You have plans for a new CNC machining program that will be launched later in the year. So clearly you all are implementing some programs that are directly attributable to those conversations and to what you're hearing our employers need. To me, that's really the beauty of a community-based community college, technical college. You all know as well as anybody what the local needs are. You're not across the state or in another place. You're right here, and you interface with potential partners daily. Talk to me about the importance of that, if you would, Dennis.
That's critical for the success of ourselves, for our industry partners, and most importantly for the students. As when I got here, that was one of the very first things I did, as you know, as I went to a TechMed meeting with Dr. Handy.
Right.
And during that drive with Dr. Handy, he laid out those marching orders about this is the direction we need to move this college because this is the need for the community.
Right.
And as we sit at the TechMed meetings, as we sit at all the workforce board meetings, we know that there are lots and lots of opportunities out there for people. And we hear the story over and over again. I have openings, but I can't find qualified people. We all know that what the unemployment rate is around the country, and we say, well, why can't they fill those positions? And the issue is qualified.
Right.
And we have to focus on the qualified part. So that's what setting up those kinds of programs as we start to grow them, those are the kinds of things that we have to look at to make sure that we're producing qualified people. So if you look at the welding program, if you look at the CNC program that you mentioned, those are the types of skills that we're developing so that they can plug into those positions that are open right now.
Absolutely.
One of the members at TechMed just last week was telling me they've had 2 positions open for 6 months and they can't find anybody.
That's a shame.
And you just kind of sit there and think, wow, how can that be in this day and age when we're hearing all the bad news out there about people that are unemployed? How can you have a job open for 6 months?
Absolutely.
But those are the kinds of things we're experiencing, and that particular position was in electronics based. So as we look at our programs, we're trying to improve the programs that we had, and we're also trying to bring on those new programs such as the CNC programming. We just are currently, in fact today, we're bringing in equipment for a manual machining lab that will lead into that CNC. So it's something that we want to develop and continue to develop, and we're looking at expansion of those programs as we go along.
Wonderful. That is tremendous news. So in terms of the welding program, you've got some students in the program. It's up and running. How's it going?
It's going great. We have a waiting list waiting to get into that program. It was very popular. I had a welding program at Gateway Technical College. I was running 2 shops, and I was running from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. 5 days a week.
Wow.
I had over 100 students in a welding program. There's a huge demand for welding. And when you look at it, it's kind of interesting when you look at it, you say, well, where are those jobs at? Those jobs are everywhere.
Right.
There's welding jobs out there across the board. Of course, here in this area, we have shipbuilding, we have the power company, we have all sorts of different opportunities here in this area for that specific skill. But it's just an opportunity that exists for a long time. So we brought in a full set of students in the fall semester. We've lost a couple, primarily because of personal reasons. Well, the latest one was he just had some family issues and had to drop out. But we'll probably finish up. We brought in 24. We'll finish out probably 18, 19 of those students, and they'll be done in the summer semester. And then we'll bring in the next batch in the fall semester, and we're probably looking at expanding that program into an evening program also in the fall semester. So we'll basically double the enrollments this coming year.
Wonderful. Well, I'm curious to know, have you identified some employers that could perhaps be partners in the program in terms of either, saying, hey, if you go through this program, we have a job waiting, or, maybe even offer internships during the curriculum itself? Are there those types of possibilities out there?
Yep, there are. And in fact, Chelco is actually a sponsor of the program as far as getting certification for the program. So they've actually been very instrumental in coming in and helping us with the program, establishing the standards for the program, and expanding the program as we go along. So yeah, and everybody, as I sit at the TechMed meeting, that all I have to do is mention something, and everybody raises their hand and said, "We'll help you."
Absolutely.
And that's the great cooperation that we have here in Okaloosa County that you don't see everywhere.
No, you're absolutely right, and as a newcomer myself, I'm equally excited about that. It's clear that this community takes partnerships very seriously.
Yes, I do.
And it seems that anyone is always willing to jump in and help us achieve what we can achieve, and we realize that we can do more together, and that's something that is a great recipe for success, as you know.
Absolutely. We've got competitors setting that aside at the TechMed meeting,
Yes.
saying we have a common goal here, and we can all be successful, and that's great to see, because that's not happening everywhere.
No doubt about it. So looking forward to the future at Northwest Florida State College with the career and technical programs in particular. Obviously, the welding program is up and running. The CNC machining program is on the docket and moving toward fruition. What about the future? Are there other programs out there that are being discussed or being analyzed for perhaps some future curriculum?
There are. I'm going to be improving our electronics program.
Okay.
We do have electronics offering currently, but it's a little bit weak, and we're going to be improving that this summer so that we have a good program up in the fall semester also.
Right.
And having those pieces in place are going to allow us to start expanding some of our offerings. We're looking at electromechanical, robotics, automated manufacturing, those kinds of programs to expand, because those are the bases. That machine shop, the electronics, welding, that's all a basis for a lot of those types of things that we can look at and start expanding into the future. So we're lining up those programs. Obviously, there's a lot of work in bringing on a new program,
Sure.
so it takes a little bit of time, but we have them lined up, and we're starting to work on all those.
Well, that's great news. As far as the facilities go, do you have the facilities you need to grow the way you need to grow?
We do. We have facilities, and we're
Right.
looking at how to best utilize those
Sure.
facilities. I was just in a meeting with our Vice President, Dr. Gerald, yesterday, and we were talking about that. So we're looking at moving some of the programs on campus so that we can start to get a consolidation of location for the particular programs. We're sort of setting up a manufacturing corner of the campus, so
Right.
we're going to take those buildings and repurpose those. So we're starting to adjust some of the programs around on the campus so that we have that opportunity to get that consolidation and able to get the synergy involved with all the programs being located in a common place. So it's something that's working out very well so far, and we're going to keep working on expanding those.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're very excited, Dennis, and look forward to all the good things happening up there. Look forward to a continued partnership, appreciate the partnership we've had thus far, and look forward to doing some great things together.
Oh, great. We look forward to it, too.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We've been chatting with Dennis Sherwood, Dean of Career and Technical Programs for Northwest Florida State College. We've learned a lot today, and I encourage our viewers to continue to follow the evolution of Northwest Florida State College, truly a great partner in our economic development efforts here in Okaloosa County. I'm Nathan Sparks, and thank you for being with us.